Ethan Cole stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his tie for the third time. The deep blue striped silk was a new purchase from last week. Chloe had told him the color suited him perfectly. The thought of Chloe brought an involuntary smile to his lips. In one more month, she would be his wife. His phone vibrated on the dresser. Ethan snatched it up, his smile widening when he saw Chloe's name. It was a text. Might be a little late tonight. Go ahead and order. Don't wait for me. The smile froze on his face. Tonight was the 1-year anniversary of his proposal to her. He'd made reservations at Lucille Bleu, the French restaurant she'd been dying to try. He'd reminded her about their special date a week ago, and then again yesterday. She promised she wouldn't be late. Another broken promise. It's okay. I'll wait for you, Ethan texted back, trying to swallow the knot of disappointment in his stomach. This wasn't the first time. At the restaurant, Ethan sat at a window table, the bottle of Cabernet in front of him having breathed for a full hour. When the waiter came by for the third time to ask if he was ready to order, Ethan forced a smile. Just a few more minutes. My fiancé will be here any second. Outside, the rain began to fall harder. Ethan's phone screen lit up with an incoming call from Chloe. Chloe, where are you? He asked, trying to keep the disappointment out of his voice. Ethan, I'm so sorry. I don't think I can make it tonight. Chloe's voice was laced with genuine apology, but underneath it was an anxious urgency. Leo was at his hackathon, got caught in the rain, and now he's running a fever. We're at the ER. I have to stay with him. Ethan's hand tightened around his phone, his knuckles turning white. Leo? What now? He's 20 years old. Can't he get himself to a hospital? Don't be like that. You know he's always been frail. Chloe's tone turned cold. His mom is overseas. She trusts my family to look after him. I can't just abandon him. And what about our anniversary? It took me a month to get this reservation. A wave of helplessness washed over Ethan. The other end of the line was silent for a few seconds. I'm sorry. I honestly forgot today was. But Leo's fever is 102. I can't leave him. Can we celebrate some other time? Some other time? Ethan let out a bitter laugh. Fine. Go take care of him. He hung up and signaled the waiter, ordering a meal for one. The food was exquisite, but Ethan couldn't taste a thing. He remembered last week, when Chloe canceled their movie night to take Leo to visit a friend in the hospital. Last month, she'd stayed up all night helping Leo edit his senior thesis and forgot all about the dinner celebrating Ethan's promotion. 6 months ago, she'd even missed the crucial first meeting between their parents because Leo had sprained his ankle playing basketball. Every time, Leo had a valid reason. Every time, Chloe would look at him with those apologetic eyes and say, I'll make it up to you next time. And every time, Ethan chose to forgive her. Looking back, he felt like a total chump, but this time, staring at the rivulets of rain tracing paths down the windowpane, he seriously considered it for the first time. Could he really live like this for the rest of his life? He found himself morbidly curious to see just how far she would push him, and where his own breaking point truly was. Ethan, what do you think of this tie? Chloe held up a burgundy striped tie from the display at Nordstrom, holding it against his chest. It's nice, Ethan said, managing a weak smile. Tomorrow was the 3rd anniversary of the day they met, and for once, Chloe had proactively suggested buying him a gift. This one, then, Chloe told the sales associate, then turned back to Ethan. Leo's graduating soon, and I want to get him something. Can you help me pick it out? Ethan nodded, following her to another counter. When Chloe pointed to the limited edition automatic watch behind the glass, Ethan's heart sank. 2 months ago, he'd mentioned to Chloe how much he loved that exact watch. But it was sold out everywhere, and now there it was sitting in the display case. Chloe bought it without a second's hesitation. Do you think Leo will like this? I thought he was more into smartwatches. Ethan probed gently. He mentioned the other day he wanted a proper watch for job interviews, Chloe explained with a smile. Besides, this one really suits him. Ethan said nothing more. The next day, when he unwrapped his gift, the tie they'd casually picked out yesterday, he did his best to keep a smile on his face. But later, when he happened to see a text from Leo on Chloe's phone, "Thanks for the watch, sis. You always know just what I want. Red heart." He could no longer lie to himself. That night, Ethan sat on the balcony, smoking one cigarette after another. Chloe came up from behind and wrapped her arms around him. What's wrong? You don't like the tie. Chloe, we need to talk. Ethan stubbed out his cigarette and turned to face her. I feel like, I'll always come second to Leo in your heart. Chloe frowned. Why are you bringing this up again? Leo is like my little brother. Can't you stop competing with him? Little brother? Ethan scoffed. You do 10 times more for him than you do for me. Do you have any idea what I like? What I hate? Do you even remember the important dates in our lives? Of course Chloe's voice trailed off, her eyes darting away. You don't, Ethan said softly, because you've never really focused on me. Chloe, we're about to get married. Can you honestly imagine living like this for the next few decades? A flash of panic crossed her face. I'll change. Leo is about to graduate. Once he's independent, he won't need me so much. Ethan looked at her, suddenly feeling exhausted. He'd heard that promise too many times before. I hope so, was all he said. One last chance, he told himself. One last chance. At the bridal boutique, Ethan stared at the closed curtain of the fitting room. Chloe had been in there for half an hour. It was her first time trying on wedding dresses, and both their mothers were here. The atmosphere should have been warm and joyous. Ethan, how do I look? Chloe finally pulled the curtain back. The pure white gown hugged her perfect figure, and the face under the veil was so beautiful it made Ethan's heart skip a beat. You look stunning, he said sincerely, stepping forward to help with her train. Just then, Chloe's phone rang. She glanced at the caller ID, and her expression immediately tightened. It's Leo. Ethan's hand froze in mid-air. He slowly pulled it back. What? Now? Okay. I'll be right there. Chloe hung up and looked at Ethan apologetically. Something's happened with Leo. I have to go. What could possibly be more important than this? Ethan's voice was calm, but the warmth in his eyes was gone. He's at the police station. He got into a fight with some guys from his class. Chloe bit her lip. He's terrified. He needs someone to post his bail. What's wrong with you? You've helped him out before. Please, don't read too much into this. Ethan took a deep breath. So, you're going to the police station in your wedding dress? Chloe finally registered her attire. I'll change. It won't take a minute. Don't bother, Ethan said, his voice quiet but incredibly firm. Go on. Don't keep him waiting. Chloe stared at him, stunned. You're not mad. Mad. Ethan smiled, a smile that sent a shiver of fear down her spine. I'm done being angry, Chloe. I'm just done. I think we need to reconsider this engagement. What does that mean? Chloe's face went white. Exactly what it sounds like. Ethan turned to their two dumbfounded mothers. Aunt Sarah. Mom. I'm sorry, but we're canceling the fitting today. Chloe and I have some things to figure out. With that, he turned and walked decisively toward the door. Ethan, Chloe cried, hiking up her dress to chase after him. You're calling off our engagement just because I have to go help Leo this one time? Don't you think you're overreacting? Ethan stopped but didn't turn around. It's not this one time, Chloe. It's every time. This isn't what love is. I need a partner who puts me first, not an eternal backup plan. He's just my brother. Chloe's voice was thick with tears. Then what am I? Ethan finally turned, his eyes filled with a pain Chloe had never seen before. What am I to you? Chloe opened her mouth, but no words came out. Forget it. Ethan shook his head. I wish you all the best, Chloe. I really do. He pushed open the door and walked out. This time, he didn't look back. Ethan was gone for a solid week. He took vacation time, turned off his phone, and not even his best friend knew where he was. Chloe sent countless texts and made dozens of calls, all of which went straight to voicemail. On the morning of the 8th day, her eyes red and swollen, Chloe went to Ethan's apartment again and found the key code on the lock had been changed. Trembling, she entered her own birthday. Incorrect. Ethan's birthday. Incorrect. The date of their first date. Incorrect. Finally, on a morbid whim, she typed in Leo's birthday. The lock clicked open. Chloe stood in the doorway, feeling as if she'd been struck by lightning. Inside, Ethan was packing a suitcase. He looked up when he heard the door open. How did you? Ethan saw the look on her face and gave a bitter smile. You figured it out? You changed the code. To Leo's birthday. Chloe's voice shook. Ironic, isn't it? Ethan zipped up his suitcase. For the last year, I've memorized everything about Leo, because he's the only topic you ever wanted to talk about. His favorite foods, his birthday, his class schedule. I probably know more about him than I do about myself. Tears finally spilled down Chloe's cheeks. I'm sorry. I honestly had no idea. I'm leaving. Ethan cut her off. The company opened a new branch in Austin. I requested a transfer. No. You can't just leave like this. Chloe rushed forward and grabbed his arm. Can we please just talk? I know I was wrong. I'll change, I promise. Ethan gently pulled his arm away. Chloe, the problem isn't whether you're willing to change. It's that you don't even understand what the problem is. You think I'm competing with Leo for your attention. But I'm not. I just wanted a place in your heart that was exclusively mine. You have one. Of course you do. Chloe said desperately. Then why? Ethan pulled a small box from his pocket. He opened it to reveal a pair of elegant cufflinks. On our first date, you pointed these out in a shop window and said they were beautiful. I bought them to give to you as a wedding gift. Chloe stared at the cufflinks, a memory flooding back. She'd said it casually, a passing comment she'd long since forgotten. But Ethan had remembered for 3 years. She was choked with sobs. I have to go, Chloe. Ethan closed the box and put it back in his pocket. Maybe this is for the best. You can keep looking after Leo without worrying about my feelings. And I can finally stop living in someone else's shadow. Chloe stood frozen as Ethan dragged his suitcase to the door. Just as he was about to step out, she suddenly cried out, What if I told you that I love you? Ethan's back stiffened, but he didn't turn around. Then it's too late. The click of the closing door was soft, but it landed like a sledgehammer on Chloe's heart. She slowly slid to the floor, finally understanding what she had lost. At that moment, Leo's name flashed on her phone. Hey sis, my laptop crashed. Can you come take a look? Chloe stared at the screen, and for the first time, felt a wave of profound irritation. Leo, you're 20 years old. It's time you learned to solve your own problems. She hung up and looked around the apartment that was once filled with their shared memories, now silent and cold. The calendar on the wall was still turned to their scheduled wedding date. On the coffee table lay the keys Ethan had left behind. Chloe picked them up and noticed a tiny photo frame on the keychain. Inside was a picture of her and Ethan at an amusement park, taken shortly after they started dating. He was grinning, so happy, and she was leaning on his shoulder, her eyes full of blissful love. When had that light vanished from her eyes? Was it when she started pouring all her energy into Leo? Chloe clenched the keychain in her fist, the sharp corner of the frame digging into her palm. In that moment, she finally understood how Ethan felt, the soul-crushing agony of loving someone with all your heart, only to never be their first choice. The afternoon sun streamed through the window, illuminating her tear-streaked face. She remembered Ethan once telling her he loved her name, because Chloe felt warm, like the sun. And now, the sun of her life had been pushed away by her own hands. Chloe stood in the middle of Ethan's living room, the keys digging deep into her palm. The apartment still held his scent, a faint mix of citrus and sandalwood cologne. She took a deep breath, as if to commit it to memory forever. On the coffee table was a cardboard box with a sticky note on top. Your things, please take them. 6 simple words. No greeting, no signature. Chloe's fingertips traced the writing. Ethan must have pressed hard. She could feel the indentations on the back of the note. She opened the box, and its contents felt like a series of daggers to the heart. The ties she'd given him, a hair clip she'd left at his place, ticket stubs from movies they'd seen together, the small stuffed bear she'd won for him at a carnival. Every single item had been meticulously kept. Even a receipt from a coffee shop was perfectly flattened and tucked inside a notebook. How could he? Chloe's legs gave out, and she sank to the floor. She never imagined Ethan treasured these insignificant little things so much. Her hands shaking, she picked up the notebook and opened it to the first page. It documented their first date. The time, the place, the color of the dress she wore, the food she'd ordered. As she flipped through, she saw that nearly every single one of their meetings was recorded in similar detail. The last entry read, 1-year anniversary of the proposal. Reserved a table at Lucille Blue. She loves their foie gras, but she never came. The ink was slightly blurred, as if it had been touched by a drop of water. Chloe's own tears splattered onto the page, mingling with the faded stain Ethan had left behind. Her phone rang, the sharp sound cutting through the silence. Leo was on the screen. For the first time, she felt a powerful urge to reject the call. She silenced her phone, tossing it onto the couch, and continued to sift through the box. At the very bottom, she found a small velvet box. When she opened it, Her breath caught in her throat. Inside was a diamond ring, even more exquisite than the one he had proposed with. Tucked beneath it was a small, folded note. I was going to give you this on our wedding day. No point now. Chloe clutched the ring to her chest, her body racked with sobs. Outside, dusk settled over the city, the last ray of sunlight disappearing through a crack in the blinds, mirroring Ethan's exit from her life. Chloe sent 8 texts and made 6 calls to Ethan. All of them vanished into a digital void. Without a second thought, she drove to his office, her eyes still red and swollen. Excuse me, is Ethan, Director Cole in? She asked the receptionist, her voice hoarse. The young woman looked at her with a mix of pity and confusion. Director Cole was transferred to the Austin branch. He's already left. You didn't know? Chloe's nails dug into her palms. When is he coming back? It's a long-term assignment, at least 2 years, from what I heard. The receptionist eyed Chloe knowingly. You're his fiancée, right? The whole office has been buzzing about you calling off the wedding. Anyway, his flight was at 1 this afternoon. Chloe registered the woman's gossipy but well-meaning tone. Thank you. She walked out of the building, the bright summer sun stinging her eyes. She pulled out her phone and frantically searched for flights. Miraculously, there was one last seat available on the same flight. It felt like a sign, as if fate was giving her a chance. While packing at home, Leo called again. Chloe stared at the screen for a long moment before finally answering. Sis, why haven't you been answering my calls? Leo sounded annoyed. My graduation is tomorrow. You promised you'd be there. Don't forget the camera. Chloe closed her eyes. Leo, I have to go to Austin for an emergency. I can't make it to your graduation. What? Leo's voice shot up. You promised. What could be more important than this? Ethan, Chloe answered flatly. I have to find Ethan. The line went quiet for a few seconds. Did you guys break up? Sis, he dumped you. Why are you still chasing after him? The words hit her like a punch to the gut. Leo, Chloe's voice was eerily calm. Do you know that when you sprained your ankle, it was Ethan who cooked all that food I brought you? When you had that fever, he was the one who drove across town in the middle of the night to buy you that specific chicken soup you like. And when your laptop crashed, he was the one who secretly called a friend to fix it for you before I brought it back. But I thought that was all you, sis, Leo said, his voice full of confusion. No, Chloe let out a bitter laugh. It was always him. He did all of that for you and never let me tell you. I thought he felt the same way I did, but now I realize he was just accommodating me. And now you say something like that. There was a long silence on the other end. Finally, Leo spoke, his voice low. I'm sorry, sis. I didn't know. Go. The graduation doesn't matter. After hanging up, Chloe checked the time. 2 hours until her flight. She quickly threw some clothes into a bag, but in a deep drawer, she found a stack of movie tickets. All for films Ethan had wanted to see, for which she had canceled because of something with Leo. On the back of each ticket, Ethan had carefully written notes. Interstellar. Chloe loves sci-fi, have to take her next time. Before sunrise. She's mentioned it so many times. Pity. Chloe carefully placed the ticket stubs in her wallet, grabbed her suitcase, and ran out the door. A sudden summer thunderstorm broke out. Chloe's Uber was stuck in a gridlock on the way to the airport, the rain hammering against the windows in time with her frantic heartbeat. Sir, can you possibly go any faster? She asked anxiously. The rain's a mess. Looks like there was an accident up ahead, the driver said. Trying to catch a flight? Chloe nodded, her fingers drumming a nervous rhythm on her knee. Her phone showed Ethan's flight was scheduled to depart in an hour, but the GPS said it would take her at least 40 more minutes to get there. I'll do my best, the driver said, seeing her panic. 30 minutes later, the car was completely stationary. The driver shook his head, though he tried to be comforting. With this weather, the flight might be delayed. Chloe seemed to make a decision. She handed the driver a piece of paper with an address and $100 bill. Sir, could you please drop my suitcase off at this address? She opened the car door and ran out into the downpour. By the time she finally reached the airport, soaked to the bone, the sun was peeking through the clouds. She sprinted through the terminal toward the security gate, only to be stopped by a TSA agent. Seeing her disheveled state, he said gently, Ma'am, boarding for your flight has closed. You'll have to rebook. No, I have to get on that plane. Chloe was nearly shouting. The most important person in my life is on that flight. The agent looked at her sympathetically. I'm sorry, but regulations. Suddenly, Chloe saw a familiar figure in a line far ahead, Ethan, wearing the dark gray trench coat she'd bought him, his back straight and solitary. "Ethan!" she yelled, her voice barely audible over the terminal's din. He didn't seem to hear, continuing to move forward with the line. Chloe tried to rush past the barrier, but security personnel blocked her path. "Ethan! Ethan!" she screamed, her voice breaking, tears blurring her vision. The figure paused and slowly turned around. Across the distance, through the surging crowd, their eyes met for a brief moment. Ethan's expression was completely foreign, utterly calm, as if he were looking at a complete stranger. Then, he turned away and disappeared around a corner. Chloe collapsed to the floor, rain dripping from the ends of her hair, forming a small, dark puddle on the polished tile. The 7th day after Ethan left was their scheduled wedding date. Chloe went to the bridal shop alone and picked up the dress she had tried on. "Miss Miller, are you sure you want to take it?" the associate asked, hesitant. "According to the agreement." "Yes, I'll pay in full," Chloe said calmly, handing over her credit card. Back at her apartment, she hung the wedding dress in the most prominent spot in her bedroom. The pure white satin gleamed like a pearl in the sunlight, a beautiful, heartbreaking sight. Her phone buzzed with a text from Leo. "Sis, I got an offer from Ethan's company, the Austin branch. I start next week. Do you want me to check on him for you?" Chloe stared at the screen for a long time before replying, "No, let him live his own life." After sending the message, she felt a strange sense of release. Over the past week, she had searched for any trace of Ethan. His social media had gone dark, and his friends claimed they hadn't heard from him. It was as if he had evaporated from her world. She had thought about going to Austin, but she was too scared. The look in Ethan's eyes at the airport was something she would never forget. Chloe walked out onto the balcony where Ethan used to smoke, where he used to watch her, where he had made his decision to leave. She leaned against the railing, trying to imagine what he had been feeling. The doorbell rang unexpectedly. She opened it to find a delivery man with a small package. "Chloe Miller? International delivery. Signature required." Confused, Chloe signed for it and opened the package. Inside was a beautifully bound photo album. The cover featured a picture of the coffee shop where they had their first date. She opened it. On the first page was the photo from the amusement park, with a caption written below, "To the warmest sunshine in my life." The album was filled with their pictures, each one accompanied by Ethan's handwritten notes. The last few pages were blank, likely reserved for wedding photos. There was also a letter inside. Chloe's hand trembled so much she could barely hold the paper. "Chloe, by the time you get this album, I should be on the other side of the world. There was a last-minute overseas project, and I volunteered. This isn't me running away. It's me trying to get a fresh start. I found these photos while I was packing. It felt like a waste to throw them away, so I'm sending them to you. The blank pages. You can tear them out or keep them, whatever you want. Your apartment key is tucked into the last page of the album. I don't have the right to keep it anymore. Also, Leo contacted me about the job in Austin. I sent him the contact info for a few friends there who will look out for him. Don't worry, I won't get in his way. Finally, I wish you happiness. Truly, Ethan." Chloe turned to the last page of the album and found her key. She suddenly remembered something and rushed to her bedroom, pulling Ethan's apartment key from the back of a drawer. She had never brought herself to return it. She laid the two keys side by side in her palm. One represented the past, the other a future that could have been, but neither could ever again open the same door. When fall arrived, Chloe quit her job and opened a small coffee shop. She named it First Chapter Cafe, and its decor was an exact replica of the shop where she and Ethan had their first date. Leo came back from Austin for the grand opening, bringing her a large manila envelope. "Ethan asked me to give this to you." Leo seemed to have matured. He said, "He wishes you the best of luck with the business." Chloe took the envelope. Inside was a set of exquisite coffee cups, the same limited edition set she had once casually mentioned wanting but couldn't find. There was no note, no message, just two small letters engraved on the bottom of each cup, E and C. "Is he doing okay?" Chloe asked softly, her fingers tracing the letters. Leo hesitated. "He's really busy. He got promoted last month and transferred to the New York headquarters." New York, so far away, so far, Chloe thought hazily, that an entire day and night separated them. "Sis," Leo started, then stopped. He keeps a picture of you two on his desk. Chloe's head snapped up, a spark of hope igniting in her eyes. But, Leo continued, on his hand, he's wearing a wedding ring. The words were like a bucket of ice water, extinguishing the fragile flame in her heart. She forced a smile. Is that so? That's good. He deserves to be happy. That night, after closing up, Chloe sat alone in the empty coffee shop, the pair of cups on the table in front of her. She poured 2 cups of coffee, one for herself, one for the empty chair opposite her. Ethan, she whispered to the empty space, I learned how to make coffee, just the way you like it. The steam rose in the air, blurring her vision. For a moment, she imagined Ethan sitting across from her, just like on their first date, smiling and saying, it's delicious. Chloe reached out to touch the phantom image, but her fingers met only cold, empty air. She pulled her hand back and drank the coffee from the other cup in one gulp. The bitter liquid burned its way down her throat, just like the love she could no longer express. Outside, the autumn rain began to fall, tracing paths down the glass. It looked just like the rain on the day Ethan left, and just like the silent tears now streaming down her face. A song played softly over the shop's speakers, an old, sad melody. Some people, once you miss them, are gone forever. End of story. Chloe's eyes were brimming with tears as she looked at me, her voice a broken whisper. Please, that ending is too cruel. Can't you let me see her one last time? Just once. I sighed. Fine. Chloe stared at the weather forecast for New York City on her laptop, her finger hovering over the purchase flight button for a full 10 minutes. A year had passed. First Chapter Cafe had become a well-known spot in town, and her life had seemingly returned to normal. If you didn't count the nightly ritual of staring at the coffee cups Ethan had left her. Her phone vibrated. It was a message from Leo. Sis, Ethan's birthday is next Wednesday. Are you sure you don't want to come to New York? Chloe bit her lower lip. 3 months ago, Leo had been sent to New York for corporate training and had started seeing Ethan more often. Every message he sent about Ethan felt like a dull knife twisting in her heart. Is he happy? She texted back, already knowing the answer was a lie. He's killing it at work. Personally, Leo's reply paused for a long time. Sis, I think you should come and see for yourself. Chloe's gaze fell on a postcard on her desk. Last month, she had unexpectedly received a postcard of the Statue of Liberty from New York. On the back, there were only 2 words, Happy Birthday, with no signature. But the familiar handwriting had made her eyes well up instantly. She picked up the postcard, examining it under the light. Suddenly, she noticed a tiny, almost invisible drawing of a coffee cup in the bottom right corner. The exact same logo as the shop where they'd had their first date. Her heart began to pound. Taking a deep, steadying breath, Chloe finally clicked the purchase button. She was going to New York. She had to see Ethan one last time, even if it was just from a distance. In the bustling arrivals hall of JFK Airport, Chloe gripped the handle of her suitcase, breathing in the foreign air. Winter in New York was colder than she'd imagined. She pulled her scarf tighter. It was a gift Ethan had sent her last Christmas, also unsigned. Sis. Leo waved from the greeting area. Next to him stood a blonde girl. This is my colleague, Amy. She drove. On the way to the hotel, Amy enthusiastically pointed out New York landmarks. You have to check out this place in Soho called Sunrise Coffee. The owner is Chinese-American, and the vibe is just incredible. Sunrise Coffee? Chloe's heart stuttered. Yeah, the owner's last name is Chun. Super nice guy, Amy said, glancing at Chloe in the rearview mirror. Speaking of which, you know Ethan, right? He's there every Friday afternoon, rain or shine. Chloe's fingers unconsciously tightened on her scarf. Does he go there often with his wife? Amy and Leo exchanged confused glances. Wife? Ethan's single. Half the women in our office have tried to ask him out, and he's turned every single one of them down. Amy laughed. He says he's still in love with someone and can't move on. Chloe felt a wave of dizziness. The neon lights outside the car window blurred into a streak of colors. Ethan wasn't married? Then what was the ring about? Sis? Are you okay? Leo asked, concerned. Leo? Chloe's voice was barely a whisper. Have you actually seen his wedding ring? Leo scratched his head. Well, at the company holiday party, I saw a ring on his left ring finger, so I just assumed. Amy chimed in. Oh, that's his mother's ring. It was her heirloom. He started wearing it the day he moved to New York. He said it's to remind himself not to make the same mistakes his parents did. I think they got divorced over some misunderstanding. Every word was a hammer blow to Chloe's heart. A misunderstanding? So she and Ethan had separated because of a misunderstanding, too? Because she had made him believe she didn't love him? Amy, Chloe said suddenly, can you take me to Sunrise Coffee? Right now. The decor of Sunrise Coffee made Chloe's eyes well up the moment she stepped inside. It was an almost perfect replica of the shop where she and Ethan had first met, right down to the layout of the menu. First time here. The Chinese-American owner greeted her warmly. I recommend our signature pour-over. The recipe is from an amazing little coffee shop back in China. Chloe's hand trembled as she pointed to a framed photo on the wall. Is that? Oh, that's my friend's place. Back in Chicago, the owner said with a smile. Funny story. One of my regulars saw that picture, and now he comes in every single week, rain or shine. Sits right in that corner every time. He pointed to a table by the window. Chloe walked over to the table and gently ran her hand across the wooden surface. On the inside of the table leg, she found 2 faintly carved letters. EC. It had to be Ethan. It was his habit. That regular. His last name isn't Cole, is it? She asked tentatively. The owner's eyebrows shot up. You know Mr. Cole? He should be in today, usually around 5. Chloe glanced at her watch. 3:40 p.m. Her heart was beating so fast it felt like it would burst from her chest. Can I wait for him here? The owner looked at her thoughtfully, and then a look of realization dawned on his face. Wait a minute. Are you Chloe? The girl from the photo in Mr. Cole's wallet. That question shattered the last of Chloe's composure. She gripped the table to keep from falling, tears blurring her vision. He still has my picture. More than just has it, the owner said, lowering his voice. Every time he comes in, he orders 2 coffees. He drinks one, and leaves the other on the empty seat across from him, like he's waiting for someone. Chloe couldn't hold back her sobs any longer. Where does he live? She choked out. Please, you have to tell me. Standing on the street below Ethan's apartment building, Chloe's courage suddenly deserted her. She stared up at the lights of the modern high-rise, wondering which window belonged to the man she had missed so desperately. Are you planning on standing out here all night? A familiar voice said from behind her. Chloe spun around. Ethan was standing just a few feet away, snowflakes dotting his black overcoat, a grocery bag in his hand. He was thinner, his features sharper, but his eyes were still just as gentle. Ethan? Her voice caught in her throat. Leo told me you were here, Ethan said calmly, his gaze sweeping over her face, red from the cold. Come on up for some hot tea. The apartment was so tidy it felt sterile. The only personal touch was a photo frame on his desk, the picture of them at the amusement park. Next to the frame, Chloe saw a ring, the engagement ring he had given her. You're not married, she stated, not as a question. Ethan handed her a mug of hot tea. I'm not. Then why did you lie to me? The mug trembled slightly in Ethan's hands. Leo told me you opened a coffee shop, that you were doing well. I thought you needed a reason to let go completely. Chloe's eyes scanned his bookshelf, where the books she had recommended to him were neatly arranged. In the kitchen, the oven mitts she'd bought at IKEA were hanging on a hook. Even the throw pillow on the sofa was the one she'd given him for his birthday years ago. You kept all these things. Ethan leaned against the window, his back to her, a lonely silhouette. Got used to them, too lazy to throw them away. Chloe walked over to him and realized that from this window, you could see Sunrise Coffee in the distance. That coffee shop? Why do you go there every week? Ethan's body tensed. The coffee is good. That's all. Ethan. Chloe summoned her courage and gently tugged on the sleeve of his coat. I saw the ring you left for me. He was silent for a long time. Finally, he said, It's too late. I'll take you back to your hotel. New York in the winter was colder than she ever could have imagined. Chloe stood outside Ethan's office building for 2 hours, her fingers numb inside her gloves, clutching a thermos. Inside was the chicken soup she had woken up at 4 a.m. to make, the same kind he used to love when he worked late. Miss Miller, Director Cole said he's too busy to see you today. The receptionist told her for the 3rd time, her eyes full of pity. It's okay. I can wait. Chloe managed to smile, holding out the thermos. Could you please give this to him? Just tell him. It's the old recipe. The receptionist hesitated, then took the thermos. Chloe watched her disappear into the elevators, knowing Ethan would recognize the logo on the container. 10 minutes later, the receptionist returned, still holding the thermos. "I'm sorry," Director Cole said. He already ate at the company cafeteria. The young woman couldn't meet Chloe's eyes. He also said, to please stop sending him things. Chloe took back the thermos. A drop of condensation rolled down its side, like a single tear. This was her 7th day in New York, and her 7th rejection. She walked to a nearby park bench and mechanically opened the container. The aroma of chicken soup dissipated quickly in the frigid air. She ate a spoonful. It was bitter and salty. She must have cried into the pot without realizing. Her phone buzzed. A text from Leo. "Sis, Ethan is going to a concert at Lincoln Center tonight. Starts at 7. Chloe immediately looked up tickets. There were still some available. She booked one in a heartbeat. The seat was in the back row, but at least they would be in the same room. That evening, she arrived at the concert hall an hour early, only to see Ethan walk in with a blonde woman on his arm. The woman was holding on to him affectionately, and Ethan wasn't pulling away. Chloe's world shattered. She turned and fled the concert hall, running blindly through the streets of New York as a cold rain began to fall, mixing with the tears on her face. "Chloe!" A familiar voice called out behind her. She turned. Ethan was standing alone in the rain, without an umbrella, his black coat quickly becoming soaked. "Why are you following me?" His voice was colder than the New York winter. "Is that your girlfriend?" Chloe's voice trembled uncontrollably. Ethan was silent for a moment. "No, she's a colleague." "Then why?" "Because I don't want to get hurt again, Chloe." Ethan's voice suddenly rose. "Do you have any idea that every time I see you, I have to stitch my own wounds shut all over again?" Rain streamed down his face, and Chloe couldn't tell if any of it was tears. "I've changed, Ethan. I really have," she said, taking a step toward him. "Every cup of coffee at my shop is made just the way you like it." So what?" He cut her off. "Can you promise me that 10 years from now, 20 years from now, I will always be the number one person in your life?" Chloe stood frozen in the rain. He was right. How could she prove that? Words were meaningless against the weight of time. "I understand," she said, taking a step back, a broken smile on her face. "This is the last time I'll bother you. Take care, Ethan." She turned and walked away, her figure looking impossibly frail in the downpour. Ethan instinctively reached out to grab. Around noon, she saw a flurry of messages on a public employee forum. Ethan had been in a car accident on his way to work. When Leo called to confirm, Chloe's world went into a tailspin. She raced to the hospital. Ethan was still in surgery. Leo was already there and looked relieved to see her. The doctor said it's not life-threatening, but he broke his right leg. He'll need a lot of rest. Leo handed her a cup of hot coffee. He kept saying your name while he was unconscious. Chloe's hands shook so badly she could barely hold the cup. 3 days later, Ethan woke up. Chloe had been by his bedside the entire time, but the moment he opened his eyes, she ducked into the bathroom. Peeking through the crack in the door, she saw him look around the room, a flicker of disappointment in his eyes. Was he looking for her? Once the doctor confirmed Ethan was stable, Chloe slipped out of the hospital. She spent the entire next day creating a detailed recovery plan for him, complete with meal plans, physical therapy exercises, and a list of all his favorite takeout restaurants with their best dishes highlighted. When Leo came to pick it up, he stared at the thick binder. "Sis, why don't you just give this to him yourself?" Chloe shook her head. "He needs to rest, not feel pressured." On the day Ethan was discharged, Chloe stood in the coffee shop across the street, watching as he was wheeled out of the hospital. The sun was bright, illuminating his pale face. He suddenly looked up, his gaze locking directly onto the coffee shop window. Chloe quickly ducked behind a curtain. When spring arrived, Chloe decided it was time to go home. Loving someone didn't mean imprisoning them. Before her flight, she went to Sunrise Coffee one last time, sitting in the corner booth with their initials carved into the wood, and ordered a Guatemalan pour-over. Leaving so soon, Mr. Chan, the owner, had become a friend. Chloe nodded, pulling a book from her bag. "Could you give this to Ethan for me? It's a limited edition he's been looking for." Mr. Chan took the book, then glanced toward the door. "I think you can give it to him yourself." Chloe turned. Ethan was standing in the doorway, holding a single sunflower. He was still walking with a slight limp, but his color had returned. "I'm all better," were the first words he said as he walked up to her table. Tears sprang to Chloe's eyes. "Congratulations." Ethan sat down, placing the sunflower in front of her. Thank you for the recovery plan. It worked. You knew it was me? The meal plan had the exact dish we ate on our first date. The notes listed every single one of my allergies. Even the coffee temperature was set to exactly 140 degrees. Ethan gave a small laugh. Who else knows me that well? Chloe looked down, unable to meet his eyes. I just wanted to help. I didn't mean anything by it. Chloe? Ethan reached out and gently lifted her chin, forcing her to look at him. Why were you avoiding me? Because I promised I wouldn't bother you again. Ethan sighed heavily. Do you know, for the past 3 months, I've come to this coffee shop every single day, hoping to run into you. Chloe's eyes widened. But you rejected me so many times. Because I was scared, Ethan said, his thumb gently wiping a tear from her cheek. I was terrified of becoming your second choice again, terrified of making the same mistake. And now, are you still scared? Ethan was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he pulled a blank postcard from his pocket and slid it across the table to her. I was thinking, maybe we could start over? From scratch. The postcard was blank, except for the small coffee cup logo in the corner, identical to the one from the shop where they first met. Chloe took the postcard, her vision blurred by tears. Start over, as friends. We could even start as strangers. Ethan smiled, and in his eyes, she saw the light she remembered so well. He held out his hand. Hi, my name is Ethan Cole. I like Guatemalan pour-over coffee and sunflowers. Chloe laughed through her tears, taking his outstretched hand. Hi, Ethan. I'm Chloe Miller. I like remembering everything about you. Outside the window, spring was quietly arriving in New York. The sun streamed through the glass, falling on the blank postcard, as if waiting for a brand new story to be written. Love isn't about grand sacrifices. It's about being the first choice in the small moments of everyday life.